Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and like. Our series begins in a high school, and like any typical classroom, there are all kinds of students. There's a group of nerds wearing glasses who seem to do nothing but study all day, a group of girls who only talk about fashion, trends, glasses, and cute little dogs, and of course, a group of bullies who clearly never learned any manners. As for the quiet and well-behaved student sitting alone in the corner, dear viewers, that is our main character, Yoon. Even though he is handsome, he is isolated and unpopular. One day, a bully walks over, snatches the earphones from his ears, and starts mocking him. The entire class laughs at him, but Yoon stays silent because he hates getting into trouble. At the end of the school day, Yoon takes the bus home. Exhausted, he accidentally falls asleep and bumps into a girl sitting in front of him. Unfortunately, she immediately assumes he did it on purpose. She causes a scene, gathers everyone's attention, and slaps him in front of all the passengers. Yoon feels deeply humiliated and cannot even defend himself. To make matters worse, some of the bullies from his school are on the same bus. They record the incident and spend the entire ride laughing at him. The next day, the photo spreads throughout the school, and everyone finds out what happened. Even Yoon's close friend sees it and starts teasing him, asking whether he really touched the girl. He keeps making fun of the slap mark on Yoon's face, comparing it to a dented soda bottle. Annoyed and embarrassed, Yoon grabs his lunch and decides to sit somewhere else, since no one seems to respect him. However, while moving, he accidentally bumps into a beautiful girl and spills sauce on her clothes. Feeling embarrassed, he quickly apologizes. Fortunately, she realizes it was an accident and forgives him with a smile. Her name is Shia. It turns out that Yoon has secretly liked Shia for a long time. He has always wanted to talk to her, but never had the courage. Instead, he watches her from afar, especially when she takes pictures or plays the piano. To him, she seems like an angel. His friend warns him not to get his hopes up because Shia is the most beautiful girl in school, and almost every boy likes her. On top of that, she is already dating a college student. Hearing this completely crushes Yoon's hopes. Later, Yoon stays behind to clean the classroom because it is his turn. While cleaning, he notices the piano and remembers all the times he attended music class just to watch Shia play. Lost in those memories, he is suddenly interrupted by a student named Hwang. Hwang invites him to a restaurant after school. He has also seen the embarrassing photo and tries to cheer Yoon up by buying him a drink. During their conversation, Hwang mentions that he heard Yoon used to be the student council president in middle school. Curious, he asks what happened afterward and why things changed so much. Yoon feels embarrassed, explaining that once he entered high school, his popularity disappeared and he was no longer respected like before. Hwang then reveals that he plans to run for student council president and wants Yoon to become his vice president. Surprised, Yoon asks why he chose him. Hwang explains that Yoon is intelligent, gets good grades, stays out of trouble, and has a good reputation. He encourages Yoon to have more confidence in himself and promises that helping him win the election will improve his image throughout the school. Excited by the opportunity, Yoon immediately agrees. As he rides the bus home, he looks out the window with a smile, feeling that for the first time in a long while, he might finally become someone important instead of being ignored by everyone. The following day, Yoon attends music class as usual, spending most of the lesson watching Shia play the piano. During class, one of the bullies passes him a drawing of Shia. Since Yoon is a decent person, he takes the picture and hides it inside his book. After class, he throws it away. While cleaning the classroom again, the same bully continues making fun of him for being unpopular and friendless. Suddenly, Hwang enters the room and calls Yoon over to help prepare election documents. He leaves the bully to clean the classroom alone. The bully is shocked that the same Yoon he constantly mocked is now running as a vice presidential candidate. Soon, Yoon's close friend hears the news as well. Since the whole school is talking about him, his friend invites him out to celebrate. While discussing the election, they joke that if Yoon wins, he might finally have a chance with Shia. At that moment, a student named June appears behind them. Everyone is surprised because June is the most popular and handsome student in the school. He approaches Yoon, who has recently become famous because of the bus incident, and invites him and his friend out for a meal. Yoon feels awkward, but his friend is thrilled. Along the way, countless students greet June, clearly impressed by his popularity and looks. Yoon's friend expects to be taken to a fancy restaurant, but June instead brings them to a small food stand. Although disappointed at first, they quickly discover that the food is delicious. While they are eating, some of June's friends arrive and ask about Yoon since they have never seen him before. To To everyone's surprise, June places a hand on Yoon's shoulder and introduces him as his friend, even calling him his little brother. Hearing this makes Yoon incredibly happy. For the first time, he feels respected and accepted by other students. Before leaving, June tells him that if anyone ever bullies him, he should come directly to him for help. Yoon walks home feeling amazed by how much his life has changed in such a short time. The next day, Yoon suddenly feels stomach pain after class and rushes toward the restroom. However, a delinquent student blocks the entrance and tells him to use another bathroom. Yoon notices that the student and his friends are smoking cigarettes. Although angry and wanting to report them, he is too intimidated to do anything. As he walks away, he hears noises coming from inside the restroom. When he looks inside, he is shocked to find June beating up the delinquent and his friends. June warns them that if they smoke again, they will regret it. Yoon is amazed by June's strength. Later, when people see June casually walking beside Yoon with his arm around his shoulder, the bullies become hesitant to mess with him anymore. Yoon feels proud to be seen with the strongest and most popular student in school. Not long afterward, the exam results are released. Yoon is shocked to discover that he ranked second instead of first. Since he is usually the top student, he feels disappointed. One of the bullies immediately mocks him, saying that participating in the election has distracted him from studying. After school, Yoon's friend shows him a fake report card that he edited with Photoshop to trick his parents. He suggests that Yoon do the same, but Yoon refuses. Instead, he decides to join a private tutoring center and improve his grades through hard work. When he arrives at the academy, he tells the teacher that he is June's friend. The teacher allows him to enroll and even refuses to charge him any money. Yoon is grateful and thanks him. Suddenly, a nerdy girl slams the door open and nearly crashes it into him. Yoon is surprised by her personality. Once the lesson begins, he notices that she answers every question effortlessly. He is amazed by her intelligence and quickly realizes that she is a genius. At that moment, Yoon becomes interested in getting to know her better. However, when she leaves, she is in such a hurry that she pushes the students aside with her hands just to get through. Yoon returns home and has no choice but to show his grades to his mother. He expects her to get angry at him, but instead, she treats him kindly and gives him a drink to help him study. She also asks him to help her friend's son with the election because he is running for a position as well. Yoon is surprised, but refuses, telling her that he already promised Hwang he would join his team and that he could never betray him. He leaves the house and later sees his friend editing students' grades using Photoshop. Yoon gets angry and warns him to stop what he is doing. After that, Yoon meets with Hwang to discuss the election and suggests that they add Shia to their team because she is smart and popular. The next day, Yoon goes to school and imagines himself winning the election, becoming famous, and finally having a chance with Shia. However, he snaps back to reality and goes to his classmates, who celebrate him because he is expected to become the vice president. But when he returns to his seat, another smart student tells him that Hwang also asked him to help and promised him the vice president position. Yoon is shocked and thinks he is lying. To confirm the truth, he goes to ask the class teacher. The teacher confirms that Hwang changed his decision after finding out that Yoon ranked second in the exams. He also reveals that June is running for president and wants Yoon to join his team. Yoon is shocked when he realizes that Hwang had been using him all this time for his own benefit, determined to make him regret it. He leaves the teacher's office with anger in his eyes and decides to join June's team instead. During lunch break, Yoon eats with his friend, who tells him that the entire school is talking about what happened. He asks why Yoon left Hwang's team and joined June's election team. However, Yoon does not reveal the truth and simply says that he did not feel comfortable with Hwang because of his arrogant attitude. By coincidence, June walks by and asks Yoon if he needs anything. He then invites him to come to his classroom after finishing lunch. Yoon feels happy about his kindness, but his friend starts feeling jealous of their relationship. Later, Yoon goes to meet June and is surprised to see the genius girl he met yesterday standing with him. He learns that she is also part of June's team. Yoon tries to greet her, but she clearly does not like him. She does not even give him a chance to talk, looks at him from head to toe, and tells him, "I don't like you either." Then she walks away. Confused by her behavior, Yoon follows them into the teacher's office to register as a member of June's team. There, he is shocked to see Hwang already there. Nervous, Yoon tries to stay away from him, but the teacher tells him to stand in the middle. Yoon has no choice but to do so. He feels extremely uncomfortable and embarrassed because he left Hwang's team and cannot even look at him. The teacher asks June and Hwang to shake hands and promises that from now on, they will compete fairly. He then officially announces the beginning of the election. Afterward, Yoon quickly leaves and struggles to catch his breath. June thinks he is sick and wants to take him to the nurse's office, but Yoon assures him that he is fine. After school, Yoon is surprised when Hwang calls him. Feeling nervous, nervous, he refuses to answer. While walking home, he sees Yoon standing with a beautiful girl, and they invite him to join them. Of course, Yoon happily agrees. The three of them ride the bus together, and Yoon feels embarrassed because it is his first time talking with such a beautiful girl. They decide to go out together, spend time having fun, laughing and joking around. As the hours pass, Yoon experiences some of the happiest moments of his life because for the first time, he feels free and accepted. At the end of the day, Yoon takes him to an expensive and famous restaurant. He orders Yoon's favorite food and continues taking care of him. Yoon thanks him for everything. Suddenly, Hwang calls Yoon. Feeling nervous, he excuses himself and goes to the bathroom to answer. Hwang asks why Yoon left his team. Yoon feels embarrassed. In his imagination, he sees himself confronting Hwang, accusing him of using him and betraying him for his own benefit. But because Yoon is shy, he cannot say those things. Instead, he apologizes and asks Hwang to forgive him. After leaving the restaurant, the girl says goodbye and leaves. Then, Yoon gives Yoon a smart watch as a gift. Yoon is shocked because it is very expensive and tries to return it, but Yoon refuses. He tells him that they are friends and that he should accept it. Yoon feels touched by Yoon's kindness and thanks him. He walks away happily, unable to believe that he finally has a friend like him. The next day at school, Yoon is surprised when Shia comes to talk to him. She asks why he nominated her for Hwang's team. Yoon explains that he chose her because she is popular and has a lot of influence among the students, which would help them in the election. However, Shia becomes upset because he left their team. Suddenly, Yoon's friend sees them together and thinks they are dating. Feeling embarrassed, Yoon leaves and returns to class. Shia notices that everyone in school knows Yoon's friend because he edits grades for students. She realizes he could be useful for Hwang's election and offers him a place on their team. Later, while Yoon is sitting in class, another student approaches him and asks him to become class president because he has become popular. By coincidence, she notices the expensive watch on his wrist and becomes impressed. She calls other students over to see it. The bully becomes jealous and puts the watch on his own wrist to try it. He wants to take it from Yoon and says it is a great gift. Suddenly, Yoon enters the classroom and sees him. He forces him to take it off and warns him that if he tries to bother Yoon again, he will regret it. The bully immediately becomes afraid, apologizes, and says, "Forget it, boss. I didn't do anything." Yoon feels happy because he finally feels like someone has his back. Encouraged, he decides to confront Hwang about what he discovered. However, when he arrives, he is shocked to see Hwang talking with Shia. He overhears them saying that Yoon is a traitor and a coward because he broke his promise and left their team. Yoon feels hurt, especially because the girl he likes is speaking badly about him. He leaves feeling disappointed. On the way, he sees three girls from school walking ahead of him and hears them talking about him because he has become famous. This makes him happy, and he decides to become even closer to Yoon. That night, Yoon visits the place where Yoon gathers with his team. He is amazed to see how large and luxurious it is and discovers that Yoon comes from a wealthy family. Yoon admires him and feels jealous because Yoon's life seems almost perfect. Yoon then gives him a VIP card and tells him that he can use it anywhere to buy anything he wants for free. After that, they sit with the genius girl to discuss their election strategy. Yoon notices that she never smiles. Yoon shows her the photo of Yoon being slapped on the bus. As soon as she sees it, she starts laughing at him. Yoon feels embarrassed because they are making fun of him. Yoon asks about their grades, and the genius girl reveals that she is ranked first in every subject in her class. She continues teasing Yoon and feels annoyed that he might become vice president, even though she believes she deserves the position more. Yoon laughs because they argue like children. He then asks them to convince their classmates to vote for him in the election. The next day, Yoon starts talking to students in class and tries to convince them to vote for Yoon. Suddenly, Shia enters the classroom with many girls and confronts the bully. They want to punish him after discovering the drawing he made of her. She threatens to report him to the principal and get him expelled from school. The bully becomes embarrassed and assumes Yoon was the one who reported him. He tries to deny it and claims he did nothing, but everyone can tell he is lying. His actions are exposed, and students continue talking about him throughout the day. They call him a creep. Even during PE class, the teacher makes fun of him and warns the girls to stay away from him because he cannot be trusted. Everyone laughs at him except Yoon. The bully then approaches Yoon, believing he was the one who exposed him. Yoon tries to defend himself, but the bully refuses to believe him and calls him a traitor for leaving Hwang's team. Yoon gets angry and almost fights him, but he controls himself, leaves the classroom, and walks away. Later, the bully goes to apologize to Shia. He kneels down and begs her to forgive him because he does not want to be expelled. Feeling sorry for him, she agrees, but warns him that if he ever does something like that to another girl again, she will make him regret it. Afterward, Yoon gathers with his classmates in the music room to choose the new team leader. Hwang goes on stage and nominates Yoon because he is responsible and always follows the rules. He does this because he wants to get closer to Yoon again. The students like his words and start encouraging Yoon to come on stage and give a speech. Yoon feels pressured and nervous, but he apologizes and decides to nominate another student instead. Because Yoon is more talented than him in music, Hwang becomes angry about what happened and feels embarrassed in front of the students. He decides to make Yoon regret it and recruits Yoon's close friend to join his team. When Yoon finds out, he goes to talk to his friend and blames him for accepting, because now they have become opponents in the election. His friend apologizes and explains that he could not let such an opportunity slip away. However, he promises Yoon that he will secretly vote for him. Later, Jun talks to Yoon and tells him that today is his birthday. He invites him to attend his birthday party. Yoon cannot believe it and says, "I'll be the first one there." That night, Yoon goes to the apartment address Jun gave him. When he arrives, Jun asks him to turn off his phone and not take any pictures. Yoon finds it strange, but does what he says. He assumes it is just a normal house and prepares to take off his shoes, but he is shocked when he discovers that it is actually a luxurious place. Inside, rich students are dancing, joking, and enjoying themselves freely. Yoon cannot believe what he is seeing because it is his first time entering a place like this. Jun takes him onto the stage and introduces him to everyone, saying that Yoon is his friend and will hopefully become his vice president in the election. Everyone cheers for him and welcomes him. The music starts, the party begins, and the students start dancing. They offer Yoon drinks, but he refuses because he is not used to it. However, when he sees the bully making fun of him and calling him a coward, he gets angry and decides to drink the cup in one go. Everyone expects him to pass out, but Yoon surprisingly handles it well. He even asks for another drink, which impresses everyone. He quickly starts enjoying himself, dancing and having fun. Little by little, Yoon begins changing from a quiet, nerdy student into someone who looks like he is losing control of himself. Suddenly, Jun receives a video call from his family. He immediately stops the music, sits in a quiet area, and answers the call. He reassures his family that he is doing well. His friends stay silent until he finishes. Then they turn the music back on and continue celebrating. However, because of the alcohol, Yoon starts feeling dizzy and begins hallucinating. He sees the bully from school and walks over to annoy him. He throws the bully's bag on the ground to provoke him, calling him a coward and a traitor. The bully does not realize that Yoon is drunk and continues insulting him. This makes Yoon decide to finally stand up for himself. He gathers his courage, calls the bully over, and challenges him. Yoon grabs him, gets on top of him, and starts punching him repeatedly until everyone is shocked by his strength. Even Jun's friends are surprised by what happened. One of them, who turns out to be a boxer, steps in and stops Yoon before calming him down and taking him away to wash his face. When Jun learns what happened, he becomes angry. His friendly personality disappears, and he turns into a completely different person. He grabs the bully by his clothes and warns him that if he ever bothers Yoon again, he will regret it. Then he throws him out of the party. After that, Jun returns to Yoon and dances with him to make things better between them. They spend a great time together. The next morning, Yoon wakes up without remembering anything. He rushes to the bathroom to wash his face and clear his mind, but he realizes he is wearing different clothes. He discovers that he stayed at Jun's house. Then he notices that his watch is missing. He becomes upset, thinking it was stolen, but after searching, he finds it inside his bag and feels relieved because it is a valuable gift from Jun. Later, Yoon goes to school and enters the supermarket with his friends. He tells them about the party he attended the previous night. They see the boxer from the party, and Yoon pays for his items. Yoon's friend becomes curious and asks how he knows him. Yoon explains that they were together at the party, but asks him not to tell anyone. However, his friend jokingly grabs attention and shouts throughout the school, "Everyone who attended and everyone who didn't, listen, this quiet student has become a wild guy. He went to a party, danced, drank, and did everything he wanted." At the same time, Jun prints his election posters. Everyone is impressed by his handsome appearance because he looks like a model. Yoon and the genius girl begin hanging the posters around the school and creating a huge campaign to help Jun win. When Hwang sees the posters, he becomes worried and feels that his chances are getting weaker. He asks Yoon's friend to do something. Meanwhile, Yoon becomes famous around school. Whenever he walks through the halls, girls point at him and greet him. When he enters the classroom, his classmates are waiting for him and ask to take pictures with him because everyone is talking about him. The bullies become jealous and decide to teach him a lesson. They take him to an abandoned storage room, beat him up, and threaten him not to act arrogant again. Yoon becomes scared and leaves while feeling upset. Suddenly, the boxer passes by on his motorcycle motorcycle and notices Yoon's injuries. He realizes that the bullies attacked him, finds out where they are, and promises Yoon that he will get his revenge. The next day, Yoon sees a police car at school. He thinks they came to arrest the bullies, but he is shocked to see that they are taking Hwang instead. Yoon wonders what happened and thinks Hwang must have done something wrong. While walking home, his friend reminds him that today is the 12th and they had planned to meet at night to celebrate. Yoon does not understand what he means. Suddenly, Jun calls him and asks to meet. Yoon goes to see him and discovers that Jun hired a photographer for a team photo shoot. The genius girl takes pictures first. She removes her glasses, and everyone is surprised by how beautiful she looks. Then it is Yoon's turn. He feels nervous because it is his first time doing a photo shoot, but the photographer encourages him and gives him confidence. Yoon starts posing and smiling, impressing everyone with his performance. Meanwhile, his friend keeps calling him, but Yoon does not hear his phone. After finishing, Yoon goes to meet his friend and is shocked to see all the students gathered together. He realizes it is his friend's birthday and feels guilty because he forgot such an important day. He tries to apologize, but his friend gets upset and hangs up on him. He goes to celebrate with the other students instead. Yoon stands alone, disappointed in himself because he did not even wish him a happy birthday. The next day at school, the bully who fought with Yoon enters with a badly injured face. He and his friends apologize to Yoon and tell him that from now on, they will support him and protect him from danger. Yoon realizes that the boxer taught them a lesson and forced them to change. He feels happy because he finally got justice. Later, Yoon meets with Jun and the team to discuss election strategies. The genius girl has already prepared everything by herself. Yoon feels useless and leaves the meeting feeling upset. The genius girl follows him and explains that she included both their names because she wanted everyone to know they worked together. It becomes clear that she may be trying to get closer to Yoon because she likes him. However, Yoon does not believe her. He gets angry and tells her that she is selfish and always wants to take all the credit for herself. She becomes hurt by his words and regrets trying to help him. Suddenly, they see police cars bringing Hwang back to school. They watch the news and learn that Hwang helped the police catch a dangerous gang that was selling illegal substances to students. Because of this, Hwang was called as a witness, honored, and became famous throughout the school. All the students gather around him, cheering his name. Yoon watches and feels jealous, worried that Hwang might win the election. However, Jun appears and reassures him. He takes Yoon with him to a meeting where they gather all their supporters. A student with election experience joins them. Jun paid her a lot of money to help with the campaign. She gives them advice and tells everyone to bring out the spy inside them. Any information they hear about Hwang must be reported to her. She divides the team into groups. Some will monitor Hwang's team, while others will spread rumors about them. She tells them that Jun must win the election by any means necessary. Everyone agrees and starts cheering for Jun. Meanwhile, Hwang and his team gather students in the music room. They distribute flyers and ask everyone to convince their classmates to vote for them. Both teams begin treating the election like a real war, with each side determined to win. Jun even creates special uniforms for his team, so they look unique and impressive. He also hires a famous songwriter to create a campaign song for him, and they practice it together. On the way home, Yoon tries to apologize to the genius girl for what he said, but she ignores him and treats him coldly. When they get on the bus, she puts on her headphones so she does not have to listen to him. Suddenly, Jun's female friend gets on the bus and sits next to Yoon. The genius girl becomes jealous and keeps watching them. Later, the girl takes Yoon to the park and confesses that she likes him. She promises that if he wins the election, she will date him. Yoon is completely shocked and cannot believe what he heard. He becomes even more motivated and keeps looking at her as she walks away. Finally, the beautiful girl he always dreamed about might actually become his girlfriend. When Yoon returns home, he looks at her pictures and admires her beauty. He decides he will do anything to win her heart. The countdown to the election begins, and only 6 days remain. Both teams gather at the school and try to convince students to support them. Since Jun comes from a wealthy family, he starts giving students gifts. He buys them expensive chocolates and fancy sweets. He even sprays his VIP card with a nice perfume scent to impress them. The teacher arrives and asks Jun about his vice president. Everyone is surprised when they realize Yoon still has not arrived. At that moment, Yoon is on the bus, but he falls asleep. The bus passes his stop, and when he wakes up, he finds himself at a faraway station. He runs desperately to catch up with the team gathering. However, because of his bad luck, he forgets his uniform on the bus. He has no choice but to wear old clothes from a storage room. As a result, he becomes the only person in his team who looks different, and the clothes smell bad because they have been stored for a long time. Everyone keeps staring at him as if they are disgusted. Yoon feels embarrassed because he feels like he has become unpopular again. Meanwhile, Hwang's team is organized and continues cheering his name loudly. The genius girl notices that they might lose, so she tries to convince students to choose Jun. She jokes that Jun will pray for them and take care of them, meaning he will give them many gifts and treat them well. The students understand what she means and ask for expensive things like iPhones and iPads. She promises that Jun will give them iPhones, iPads, and even PlayStations. When Yoon tries to do the same, nobody pays attention because of his bad smell. He feels embarrassed and worries that Jun will be disappointed in him. On the other side, Yoon's friend performs a song. He starts playing music and singing with a beautiful voice, impressing the students. Everyone starts cheering for him. He uses the opportunity to ask them to choose Hwang because he will help students with studying and exams. Hwang becomes happy and stands in front of Yoon, throwing his card down and challenging him, saying he will be the winner. Later, a news report appears on television talking about the school election. They reveal the voting results, and Hwang is far ahead of Jun. It looks like Hwang is close to winning. When Hwang receives the news, he gathers his team and celebrates with them, telling them to continue their good performance. On the other side, Jun's team becomes frustrated. The election strategist enters and starts criticizing them. She explains that the election is a war because whoever wins will control the school's power. She tells them they must win at any cost, even if they have to use aggressive methods. She gives them advice on how to convince students to vote for Jun, and the team becomes motivated to follow her plan. Before leaving, she asks to speak with Yoon because he is the only one who knows information about Hwang. She asks him to reveal any secrets about Hwang or anyone on his team so they can use them against him. Yoon is shocked and remembers when his friend was editing grades, but he refuses. He does not want to ruin someone's reputation. Later, while returning home, Yoon notices that the other team has damaged their posters and written insults on their pictures. He and the genius girl feel disappointed, but Jun encourages them and tells them to trust him because he will win. They become happy because of his confidence and promise to help him. Meanwhile, the genius girl wants to buy makeup products. Yoon teases her because she always wears glasses and tells her that changing her hair and appearance would make her look better. She gets angry, decides to make him regret his words, and leaves. Yoon feels guilty and follows her to apologize. Because she is kind, she forgives him and walks with him to the bus stop. Later, Yoon is returning home late when a person wearing a mask suddenly passes by on a motorcycle at high speed and hits him. The person looks like he did it intentionally. Yoon feels weak, loses consciousness, and collapses. When he wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital. Jun and the boxer visit him and become worried. Yoon assures them that he is fine, but they become angry because they want to know who did this so they can punish him. Suddenly, Hwang arrives to check on him. Yoon is surprised because the news has not spread yet and asks how he knew. Hwang becomes nervous and says someone called him and told him that Yoon had an accident. However, they do not believe him, especially because Hwang also owns a motorcycle. 5 days remain before the election. Yoon returns to school, and all his classmates show concern for him. Jun comes to check on him and promises that he will not stop until he finds out who hit him. Yoon feels happy because of Jun's kindness and thanks him. He feels like he has become famous again because of the accident. However, the bullies keep talking about it and suspect that Yoon caused the accident himself to gain sympathy and collect election votes. Suddenly, the genius girl surprises everyone when she appears without her glasses, with her hair down, and a completely different style. Even Yoon is amazed by her transformation because she changes from a rough-looking girl into someone beautiful and cute. After that, both teams begin creating advertisements to convince students to vote for them. Jun promises students that if he wins, he will make their lives easier and open a school cafe with cheap prices. Meanwhile, Yoon's friend stands outside in the rain, completely soaked. Shia appears with an umbrella, and they film an advertisement for Hwang's team. They tell students to choose Hwang because if he wins, nobody will ever get caught in the rain again since he will provide daily weather updates. Everyone is impressed, and students begin cheering for Hwang's team. Because of this, Hwang's rating increases, and he gets closer to winning. Later, Yoon enters the school and sees his close friend standing with Shia because they are both on the same team. Yoon feels jealous because if he had stayed with Hwang's team, he might have been the one standing with her and getting closer to her. Suddenly, a talented student approaches Yoon and asks to talk with him. He takes him to the library and shows him a paper written by Hwang. Yoon is shocked when he discovers that Hwang was bullying him but wanted him on his team only because he became famous after the bus incident. Yoon gets angry and wants to confront Hwang, but he stops himself himself. The only thing he does is hit Huang's picture on the wall. Meanwhile, Huang holds a meeting with students. He tells them that he is one of them and promises that if he wins, he will support them and stand by them in any problem. His team supports him, and Xia uses her beauty to promise girls that she will help them improve their appearance and become more confident. Yoon's friend also uses his talent by singing and impresses everyone with his voice. Jun becomes frustrated, especially when he sees that Huang's team created a statue with Huang's picture. He feels like his team is losing its importance and asks Yoon to do something. Yoon is shocked because it is the first time Jun speaks to him this way. He becomes nervous but decides to take action. That night, Yoon sneaks into the school and walks until he reaches the room where the statues are kept. The next day, everyone is shocked to discover that the statues were destroyed and Huang's picture was scratched with something that looks like blood. Yoon's friend immediately accuses Jun and his team of doing it. However, Yoon defends them and says there is no evidence. He suggests that maybe Huang's team did it themselves to ruin Jun's reputation. The two friends start arguing and almost fight, but the teacher stops them before things get worse. The teacher decides to remove the statues to prevent more problems and warns them that if another fight happens, he will cancel the election. Huang becomes angry about what happened. After everyone leaves, his true personality appears. He slaps Yoon's friend and tells him that because of his fight with Yoon, the teacher now thinks their team is full of troublemakers. He warns him not to do anything without permission again. Later, Yoon arrives at school and is shocked to see an announcement accusing him of harassing a girl on the bus. The person who posted it is the bully. Yoon becomes angry and decides to confront him. He takes an umbrella and goes to fight him. However, the boxer stops him and takes the umbrella away, explaining that this will only create problems for Jun's election. Yoon is forced to listen. At the same time, Xia confronts the bully and scolds him for what he did. She explains that they want to win the election through their own efforts, not by lying or spreading rumors. The bully feels guilty because he thought Yoon was the one who reported him or exposed the drawing incident, but he realizes Yoon was innocent. He leaves feeling regretful. Later, he meets Huang and expects Huang to also get angry with him, but he is surprised when Huang encourages him and asks him to help with the election, making him his right-hand man. That night, Yoon meets Xia after discovering that she attended Jun's birthday party. He accuses her of being a spy, takes her phone, and asks her to unlock it. Without her noticing, he sends the party video to himself. Then he returns her phone and apologizes, saying he trusts her and only did it to test her. Meanwhile, Yoon is walking home when he sees two students watching a video from Jun's birthday party. They discover that Jun holds parties at his house without his family knowing. Yoon is shocked and remembers that the bully was the one who shared the video. He goes to meet the boxer and tells him what happened. They realize that if the video spreads, it could damage Jun's reputation in the election. The boxer explains that he hired someone to throw a bag of dirt at the bully to scare him and stop him from causing more trouble. The boxer becomes shocked and angry when he hears this. Because he does not want him to become a criminal, the boxer takes him and goes after the bully. On the way, Yoon tries to call the thug to stop him, but unfortunately, his phone runs out of battery. The boxer is forced to drive his motorcycle at maximum speed, almost causing an accident. Meanwhile, the bully arrives at the house, and Yoon runs to stop him before he reaches the door. The thug is standing on the roof watching them, but the bag he is holding accidentally slips from his hands and falls toward them. Luckily, the boxer arrives at the right moment and pushes them away. The dirt falls completely on his own head instead. He is happy that nobody got injured, so he leaves. The bully is confused about what happened. Yoon tries to cover the situation and tells him that the house must have been old, and luckily, everything ended well. He tells him to go inside and rest. As soon as he enters, Yoon and the thug start cleaning the dirt and trash from the ground, then quickly run away. The next day is the final day before the election. Both teams gather in front of the school, and their supporters cheer loudly as if they are candidates for president of a country. The election debate begins. The genius girl speaks against Xia, and the students become excited. She promises that if Jun wins, he will buy every student a scooter to come to school. Xia thinks she is just a failure and starts making fun of her. The genius girl decides to show her true ability and challenges Xia to speak English. Xia tries, but she fails and feels embarrassed, so she gives up. On the other hand, the genius girl continues speaking English fluently like a robot. The students are impressed by her intelligence, and she wins the challenge. Because of this, Jun's popularity increases and surpasses Huang's. The presenter goes to congratulate him, but suddenly, the bully appears on the school roof with a microphone and announces that Jun is an irresponsible student. He reveals that Jun holds inappropriate parties at his house. Everyone is shocked and cannot believe it. They take him down, but Huang uses the opportunity and shares the birthday party video in the school group. All students watch the video and are shocked. Their opinion of Jun changes, and they believe he does not deserve the position. They ask him to withdraw from the election. Jun becomes furious and realizes that Huang is behind everything. He looks at him with anger and decides to make him regret it. He gathers his team and tells them he will not give up. He asks them to convince students to choose him no matter what. The next day, Yoon and the genius girl go around classrooms asking students to vote for Jun. However, the students refuse and keep mocking Yoon, saying bad things about him because he attended that birthday party. The genius girl becomes angry and defends him. She shouts at them and warns that anyone who talks badly about Yoon will regret it. Everyone becomes afraid of her confidence and stops talking. Yoon is happy that she defended him and starts becoming more interested in her. Later, his friend asks to talk with him. He tells Yoon that he never told Huang anything about the party. Yoon says he trusts him and knows he would never reveal his secrets. His friend is touched by his words and admits that he regrets joining the election. He says if he could go back, he would never join again. He asks Yoon that after everything ends, they return to being close friends like before. Yoon tells him they are already friends and do not need to wait until the election ends, but unfortunately, happiness does not last. The next day at school, news spreads that Yoon's friend was editing grades. Yoon is shocked and discovers that Jun was the one who revealed it. He runs to confront Jun and asks why he did that. Instead of apologizing, Jun laughs and says they are in a war and they have to win by any method. He promises that after the election, when he wins, he will help his friend return to school. Yoon becomes disappointed by his words, leaves him, and goes to the place where he usually meets his friend. He sends him a message saying he is waiting for him, but Huang arrives instead. Huang insults Yoon and calls him a traitor. Yoon tries to defend himself and explain that he did nothing wrong. However, Huang does not believe him and hits him. Yoon feels guilty because he trusted Jun and revealed his friend's secrets, only to be betrayed in the end. Meanwhile, the genius girl releases a video showing Huang fighting with students during a soccer game. Because of this, Huang's popularity decreases and Jun takes the lead. The next day is the final election day. Huang realizes he might lose, but he gathers his team and thanks them for their efforts. He encourages them, promises to celebrate with them after the election, and tells them not to give up. They regain hope, gather in front of the school, celebrate, sing, and try to convince students to vote for Huang. On the other side, Jun's team creates a game to attract students' attention. Yoon goes first and gets asked a question, but he cannot answer it. As punishment, they throw a bucket of ice water over him. The students love the game and decide to join. They continue playing, laughing, and having fun together. Meanwhile, Yoon's friend sits alone because after the rumor spread, everyone avoided him and he became unpopular. Yoon sees him and feels sorry for him. He tells him that he understands his feelings because he was once in the same situation. He encourages him to forget what happened, start a new chapter, and assures him that everything will pass. His friend feels better and decides to join the gathering. However, because Yoon is unlucky, when he arrives, he finds both teams fighting. He tries to stop them, but he gets caught in the middle and everyone starts hitting him. The place becomes damaged. Suddenly, a police car arrives, carrying an injured student who was beaten, and they want to arrest whoever did it. Jun becomes nervous when he sees him because he remembers what happened the previous night. We discover that Jun and the boxer were the ones who attacked him after finding out he leaked pictures and videos from Jun's birthday party. The boxer beat him badly and broke his face. Jun comes back to reality and asks the boxer to turn himself in and confess, taking the blame instead of him. He tells him that after the election ends, he will help him get out. The boxer is shocked because he feels Jun is sacrificing him, but he has no choice. He leaves and gets into the police car. Finally, the moment arrives to announce the election results. The teacher goes on stage and says this was the strongest election in the school's history. Everyone is excited to know who won. He asks each candidate to give a speech. Huang goes first. He thanks his team and everyone who supported him. He promises that if he wins, he will take responsibility and do his best. The students like his speech and cheer his name, but then he betrays the bully. He says the bully was the reason behind the fight and promises that if he becomes president, he will punish him. The bully is shocked because he realizes Huang was only using him. He leaves the place. After that, Jun calmly walks onto the stage with confidence. Everyone is impressed by his appearance and charisma, but suddenly, someone from the other team throws an egg at him. Jun feels embarrassed and almost decides to leave the stage. However, Yoon comes up, cleans his clothes, gets closer to him, and tells him about a smart idea he has. Jun decides to trust him and follows his advice. He throws away the tablet that contains the speech he was supposed to read and starts speaking from his heart. He admits all the mistakes he has made in his life life, including the birthday party incident. He kneels on the ground, apologizes, and asks everyone to forgive him and help him become a better person. The plan works. Everyone is touched by his words and believes him. They start cheering his name loudly. When voting begins, most students decide to choose him because they feel sympathy for him and want to give him a chance to start over. After that, June decides to call his boxer friend to check on him. However, he learns that the boxer has been released from prison. The boxer explains that he had to apologize to the student he attacked and pay compensation. June becomes happy and promises that he will repay the money, but the boxer gets angry because he feels that June sacrificed him. He tells him that he does not want anything from him and does not even want to know him anymore. He hangs up the phone and throws away the expensive watch June gave him as a gift. He decides to end their friendship. Meanwhile, Yoon looks at his friend from a distance and remembers all the memories they shared together. He realizes how much he misses him and decides to go apologize, but suddenly, the teacher goes on stage to announce the election results. Everyone becomes nervous and waits. The teacher opens the envelope and announces that June is the winner. Everyone is shocked. His team becomes extremely happy. They carry him onto the stage, lift him into the air, and celebrate his victory. Hwang feels disappointed, but he thanks his team for their efforts. He sees June and goes to congratulate him. The genius girl hugs Shia to comfort her, and both teams finally make peace and become friends again. After the election ends, Yoon sits with the genius girl. They both feel sad because they will no longer spend time together like before. It becomes clear that they both like each other. Yoon gathers courage and wants to confess his feelings, but suddenly, his mother calls him. When he answers, she tells him to come home because she discovered who hit him. Yoon is shocked and decides to go. There, he meets a witness who saw what happened. The witness shows him a picture of the person who hit him. Yoon is completely shocked. The person was June. Yes, dear viewer, June did it, so he could gain an advantage in the election. Yoon decides to take revenge. He goes to the teacher and tells him everything, hoping to remove June from his position. However, the teacher refuses because June had bribed him. When the teacher realizes that Yoon is determined to report the truth, he threatens him. He shows him a video of Yoon entering the school at night. Yoon is shocked and starts remembering what happened. We discover that when Yoon entered the school, he found Hwang's statues destroyed. He told the teacher that he was innocent and had nothing to do with it, but the teacher did not believe him. He told Yoon to forget about the matter because if he reported him, he would tell everyone that Yoon was the one who destroyed the statues. Yoon becomes afraid and leaves. While walking, he remembers all his memories with June and realizes that June also deceived him. He only got close to him to use him and help him win the election. On the way, Yoon sees two people happily joking together and remembers his old friend. He remembers how their friendship was genuine and without any benefit. He becomes sad because they separated because of the election. He decides to talk to him. He stands under his friend's house, calls his name, and sends him a message asking him to look out the window, but his friend does not respond. Instead, he turns off the room light. Yoon becomes upset and realizes that their friendship is truly over. He gets angry and decides to take revenge on June because he was the reason everything happened. He goes to June's house and knocks on the door. June does not open it. Yoon waits outside until his friend finally lets him in. Inside, he finds June drinking with girls and completely out of control. When June sees him, he becomes angry and tells him that he was not invited. Yoon asks him why his attitude toward him suddenly changed. June laughs and tells him that Yoon is stupid and naive. He reveals that he never considered him a real friend. He only used Yoon's popularity at school to help him win the election. He throws a drink in Yoon's face and slaps him. Yoon becomes furious. He throws the watch on the ground and tells June that he knows he was the one who hit him with the motorcycle. He says he will not stop until he reports him and sends him to prison. June is shocked and loses control. Filled with anger, he attacks Yoon. He pushes him to the ground, gets on top of him, and starts beating him with all his strength. He hits him so badly that the girls with him become scared and beg him to stop. Suddenly, Yoon starts laughing. We discover that he was not defending himself. He was live streaming everything to expose June in front of everyone. June is shocked by what happened. He becomes furious and grabs a bottle, moving toward Yoon to finish him, but the boxer arrives at the right moment. He stops June and warns him that if he gets close to Yoon again, he will regret it. He takes Yoon and leaves. June breaks down because he has lost everything. He throws a statue through the window, breaking the glass. Because of this, the neighbors call the police. The police arrive, see what happened, and arrest him. June cries and begs Yoon to forgive him and withdraw the complaint, but Yoon refuses. He looks at him and decides to let him go to prison so he can pay for what he did. The next day, Yoon feels that he cannot continue at the school after everything that happened. He decides to transfer. He says goodbye to his classmates, and they become sad because they will miss him. When he leaves, he finds Hwang waiting for him. Hwang apologizes for everything he did and makes peace with him about the bullying. smiling. Yoon is happy that their relationship is fixed. He says goodbye to the genius girl and tells her they will meet again someday. Then he leaves while crying. 1 year passes. We see Yoon leaving his new school. He has become a top student again, just like before. The boxer is waiting for him. He sold his motorcycle and bought a car. Yoon is happy and gets into the car with him. The boxer decides to take him to his old school. There, Yoon is surprised to see Shia and the genius girl running against each other in another election. He remembers all the beautiful moments they shared during the election and realizes how much he misses them. The boxer notices this and decides to bring him back to the school by force. He takes Yoon's student card to transfer him back. Yoon keeps running after him while laughing. It seems that he agrees to return to his old school. And with that, my friend, our story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more drama summaries. See you in the next drama. Goodbye.